Hi, welcome to the University of Wisconsin Engineering Expo for 2021. My name is Brewster Shaw. I'm a graduate of the College of Engineering at the University of Wisconsin, and I've spent my career in the aerospace field, primarily in human space exploration. So let's talk a little bit about education, specifically science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM as we know it by. What does STEM have to do with space exploration? Well, the answer is really almost everything. The people who design, build, operate, manage the equipment, software, facilities, missions, all of those people are STEM educated people. So, what would be an example of human space exploration? Well, the space shuttle would be an excellent example. The space shuttle is essentially a space truck that defies gravity and carries people and equipment to low Earth orbit to do things like research, deploy satellites and probes, observe our planet and other planets, and carry up and assemble all of the elements of the International Space Station. So, you may ask, well, what is gravity? What is orbit? And what is low Earth orbit? Well, gravity is the force of attraction that all masses have for each other. What's a mass? The Earth, rocks, people, the moon, satellites, all those things are masses and they all attract each other in one way or another. Your body, your head, your brain are all masses, but not your ideas. They may carry weight, but they're not masses. Ask your teacher to explain that to you. So what is orbit? What does that mean? Well, orbit means that something is going around the Earth, for example, if it's in orbit around the Earth, and it's in a stable situation. It just keeps going around and around and around unless you do something to disturb it. It takes about 18,000 miles an hour of velocity in order to keep something in orbit around the Earth. The moon is in orbit around the Earth, but it's way far out there. The space shuttle and the International Space Station orbit the Earth, and so do satellites. So what is low Earth orbit? Low Earth orbit just means an orbit where the altitude of the orbit above the surface of the Earth is something in the neighborhood of maybe the distance from Madison to Chicago or Madison to Detroit, the 100 to 500 mile range. That's just what we mean by low Earth orbit. And anything that's in low Earth orbit has a period of 90 minutes. It takes 90 minutes for it to go around the world one time. Things that are not in low Earth orbit are, again, the moon. It takes 28 days to go around the Earth. And your direct TV satellite that you watch TV from, maybe, it takes one whole day to go around the Earth. And so as the Earth rotates, this goes right with it. So if this satellite is over San Antonio, Texas, maybe, it's going to always be over there. And so the people there can always get their direct TV programming. So how do we know all of this stuff? Well, people just like you with STEM educations and with the help of their computers have figured all of this stuff out for us. So it makes it easy for us. Okay, now the space shuttle, how does it get to low Earth orbit? Well, the space shuttle system has 5 rocket motors, 2 big ones on the side of the tank and then 3 on the back of the orbiter itself. And those rocket engines provide enough thrust to push it to orbital speed on an ascent trajectory. That orbital speed, again, 18,000 miles an hour. But what direction does it go right as it lifts off the launch pad? Let me give you an example. You've, I'm sure, ridden it with your mom or dad in a car and been sitting near the window and stick your hand out the window. If the car is going 60 miles an hour, say, it pushes your hand back because of the pressure and the drag from the air outside. Well, imagine 18,000 miles an hour. That's 300 times more. So what would that do to your arm? Well, it would rip it right off, and not only that, but it would burn it off because of the heat of friction of going that fast in the atmosphere. So the space shuttle has to give above the atmosphere and develop the velocity, the 18,000 miles an hour, in order to keep it in orbit around the Earth. And this arced path that it flies up and downrange, it takes about 8.5 minutes from liftoff until the time the space shuttle is in orbit. Now, when you get to orbit, you have some questions, right? What about those little green men? What about those aliens? Are there any of those guys out there? I personally have never seen any of them. I'm pretty sure that they do exist. There are billions and billions of stars and billions of planets in the universe, and many of those planets are at the right distance from their sun to have an atmosphere and temperature that life could develop in. So I'm pretty sure there are aliens in the universe, but the chances of us seeing them are pretty slim, because they are so far away. The travel time is so much, and it's so hard to travel those distances and still be alive, that I don't think we will ever see the aliens. Another question, can you breathe in space? If you are inside the space shuttle or inside the space station or inside a space suit, you can breathe just fine. If you're outside and you don't have any of those, there's no air, you're in a vacuum, you can't breathe at all, and you won't last very long, unfortunately. What about food? What and how do we eat on orbit? Well, the food is essentially the same food you eat here on Earth. It might be prepared, cooked a little bit differently, but it certainly is packaged differently. And the reason for that is you don't want crumbs, you don't want liquids, you don't want anything getting loose in the atmosphere, because you're living in this little room. They just recycle the air around, and so everything that gets loose is going to get in your eye or something like that. So we really pay attention to keep things clean. Another question, how do you go to the bathroom? So in space, your body goes to the bathroom just exactly the same way as it does here on Earth. But we have special space toilets that help you keep everything corralled as it should be, so we don't have any messes. Now, when the mission is over, how do you get home? Well, you have to do what's called a deorbit burn. And what that means is, as you're going around the Earth in your orbit, if you slow down a little bit right over here by doing a propulsive deorbit burn, then over here on this side, halfway around, the altitude of your orbit will be lower. So if you do it just right, then somewhere along the way, you start to get into the top of the atmosphere. And once you get into the atmosphere, the drag caused by the molecules in the atmosphere will help dissipate all the rest of that 18,000 miles an hour. So the space shuttle turns around, does a little burn that helps it slow down, then it pitches up so that it's going like that with the nose 40 degrees up, and all these tile on the bottom help protect the structure from the heat of re-entry, because it gets really, really hot. But once you survive that, then this thing glides in and lands on the runway just like a glider. And an hour after you do that deorbit burn, you're stopped on the end of the runway, and all is well. But, that's human space exploration. That's what I did. That's what I liked. That's what my passion was for. But what if aerospace is not for you? Everything we have, everything we do things with each day, it's all been engineered by either an engineer or a STEM educated person. So there's lots of things going on in the world besides aerospace to be interested in and to devote to your career to, and to get educated for. Now, what if STEM, that kind of thinking, what if that's not for you? Well, it's clear that the world needs authors, artists, musicians, teachers, nurses, detectives, business professionals, military leaders. I mean, there's tons of cool things to do in your life that aren't related to STEM education if you don't like that. Now, what if college is not for you? You don't want to go to college, or you can't go to college for some reason. There are lots of other means to develop a marketable skill that will be interesting and rewarding for you, like tech schools, on-the-job training, that sort of thing. And goodness knows, the world needs master builders, electricians, plumbers, chefs, firefighters, law enforcement, production people, agriculture people, services people. There's plenty to do, but you have to get yourself prepared by getting the proper training. So, whatever you have a passion for, and you don't know right now maybe, but eventually you will develop a passion for something that life encompasses, something you want to do, something's very interesting to you. You have to develop a plan in order to be able to accomplish that. I call that plan defining your North Star. And here are some things that you could think about, talk about with your teacher, talk about with your parents, and see if doing these things and thinking about these things wouldn't help you get to where you want to go with your life. So, whatever you choose to do, be good at it. Learn to ask good questions and then actually listen to the answers. If you choose to attend the University of Wisconsin in STEM or any other discipline, you can't go wrong. It's an outstanding, excellent university. Finally, in our solar system, there's one sun and there's one planet Earth, and that's our home. There's not very much we humans can do to influence the future of the sun, but we can help each other take care of our Earth. Ask your parents and your teachers, what can you do to help? Decide what you want to do, be good at it, and good luck to you all.